Our next two speakers may come from quite different backgrounds, however, both are passionate about ensuring that the green transition is also a just transition. They'll provide us with some insight into the long-term planning that is required to ensure that appropriate policies and infrastructure are in place to support this transition. First off, we'll hear from Jim McOmish. He's head of the distribution networks at SP Energy, and he'll share with us how SP Energy Networks is setting in motion projects that will deliver an inclusive, low-carbon transition and highlight the benefits of this proactive and organised approach. Following him, I've invited Deborah Payton, the Connectivity Plan Group Manager at Glasgow City Council, to share with us why it's important for the city to adopt a whole systems approach in order to deliver the city's net zero aspirations by 2030 in a fair and sustainable manner. So, Jim.
Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for joining. I'm Jim McOmish from SP Energy Networks, which is the electricity transmission and distribution company that's part of the Scottish Power Group. And I'd like to start by thanking the Power Networks Demonstration Centre for inviting me to talk at the conference today. My presentation is going to give you some insight into an electricity networks company thinking about our role in achieving a just transition with a particular focus on decarbonisation of transport. At SP Energy Networks, we believe we have a unique role to play on behalf of our customers in delivering an inclusive low-carbon transition. As a regulated monopoly, we deliver a universal essential service to all of our customers, and we deliver a level of service that's respected by our customers, regularly scoring over 9 out of 10 in customer surveys. So we're trusted by our customers. And that means we have an opportunity to play a particular role in enabling the low carbon transition. Today, I'd like to share with you some insight and learnings from the decarbonisation of transport projects that SP Energy Networks has been involved in over the last couple of years. This slide shows just a small number of these, and I'll describe these in a little more detail. EV Up is a project that takes socio-demographic information, maps that onto housing stock, and combines that with network information so that we understand where we're going to face the biggest challenges on our network going forward based upon the likelihood of customers adopting electric vehicles at their houses. It also helps us understand where are the customers that are likely to be able to buy electric vehicles but may face challenges because they need public infrastructure nearby, and also it helps us understand where are those customers across our customer base who are not going to be able to adopt EVs and will need public transport or community solutions. So the first of these projects is EV Up. This project combines socio-demographic information along with housing stock information and mapped that onto our network. That has 3 significant outputs for us. It helps us understand early adoption and where are we going to see problems on our networks that we need to respond to. It helps us understand where are those customers who have the economic power to buy an electric vehicle but are going to be reliant upon public charging infrastructure. And also finally, where are those customers that may never have an EV or are likely to be very late in adopting an EV and are going to rely upon public transport and community transport schemes. Project Charge took that information and took it to the next level, combining that with commuting information across the whole of Merseyside and Liverpool, and leveraged a trial in Frankfurt in Germany and took that transport modelling information and mapped that onto that to help us understand, in additional to home charging, community charging, where will the main charging hubs be needed across that area. The third project I'd like to talk about was with the University of Strathclyde. And this was a study completed by Professor Karen Turner at Strathclyde University and looked at the economic benefits and the impact on fuel poor customers from a strategic planned investment in networks versus a just-in-time delivery when customers ask us to do that. That project showed that there is a clear economic benefit in terms of positive GDP growth taking a planned approach rather than a just-in-time approach. And also the additional consequences are it's a better outcome for fuel-poor customers because it's a smoother transition and has less price shocks. Finally, the project that we are particularly proud of, the Green Economy Fund, is a project where we have chosen voluntarily to invest £20 million in a number of pilot community green projects. The idea being behind that project, we enable communities and customers to adopt early low carbon technologies, and then the learnings can be cascaded across other customer groups. Also, we understand the new skills that are required for the adoption of those low carbon technologies. So the Green Economy Fund in a transport context has funded a number of significant projects, ranging from supporting the full electrification of the first bus depot in Glasgow, which will be the largest electric bus charging hub in the UK, funding 4 double-deck buses in Edinburgh, enabling the bus company to trial electric buses for the first time. We've supported community transport schemes with electric minibuses and electric people carriers through to e-bike projects, and one we're particularly proud of, e-cargo bikes, looking at decarbonising the last mile of delivery in city centres. So I'd like now just to take a couple of minutes to talk about a particular project that SP Energy Networks has delivered over the last 2 years with the Scottish Government. This project, Project PACE, trialled a strategic DNO-led approach to delivery of community EV charging hubs and was underpinned by 5.3 million of Scottish Government funding to enable this project. A key component of the project was investment of £500,000 worth of SP Energy Networks Green Economy Fund to carry out sophisticated DNO site selection. And what we did, we looked at network availability, environmental issues, land ownership, planning concerns, and also used our EV Up methodology to consider future community use of the charging hubs. Doing that, we narrowed down from over 100 potential community hubs and council parking sites down to the 44 most optimal and cost-effective sites for future EV charging hubs. Having identified the optimal sites, the project then trialled the actual delivery of the 44 charging hubs, with the intention of delivering over 10 megawatts of charging capacity into North and South Lanarkshire and Central Scotland. That represents over 200% increase in public EV charging infrastructure across those two council areas and over 15% across the whole of Scotland. So what did the project actually deliver? The project was launched in August 2019 and the first site went live in July 2020. In the following 12 months, despite of the COVID construction restrictions, the entire 44 sites were delivered successfully. The savings that we achieved, just network savings across the 44 hubs, were somewhere between 1.3 and 2.6 million. Significant savings, as much as 66% on estimated connections costs, network connections costs across those 44 hubs. The sites were delivered much quicker than those that have been delivered historically. And the project also supported £1 million of community transport schemes, electric minibuses and electric people carriers and electric cars, providing support to those communities within North and South Lanarkshire that will never use electric cars themselves, but are reliant upon these community transport schemes. And those community transport schemes are using these hubs in order to charge their electric vehicles. So more importantly, from Project PACE, what did we learn? What can we deploy on other projects and what can the industry learn from the project? The first thing is that network auctioneering supports timely and cost-effective transport and heat planning. We enabled 2.6 million of savings, network savings, on that project alone and saved the Scottish taxpayer 2.6 million. But if we scaled that up to the whole of Scotland, we could save more than 26 million. If we scale it up to the whole of the UK, we could save more than 310 million for the taxpayer. And that's just for these last resort community EV charging hubs. The opportunity is much more significant when we think about the DNOs at the heart of this planning for all decarbonisation of transport, and also when we begin to think about the costs associated with decarbonisation of heat. The other aspect is that DNOs have demonstrated that we can step in and provide the supplier of last resort role, where markets are not going to provide community EV charging hubs because they're in rural locations or areas of high deprivation, where there isn't going to be sufficient usage to make a market model function effectively. And as a consequence, they won't be commercially attractive. The other key aspect that we've learned from this is that the DNO-led approach will create long-term local jobs. And that's across the skills involved in the optioneering and site selection, site delivery, through to the long-term maintenance and operation of that public EV charging infrastructure that is going to be needed at the heart of our communities. A final reflection on Project PACE is from the Houses of Commons, and one of the Scottish MPs who referenced Project PACE this summer. He said Project PACE achieved savings of over £60,000 per site, and he would like to see a lot more of that, not just across Scotland, but across the rest of the country. We're really proud of the references that Project PACE is getting in government, both at Westminster and in Scotland and in Wales, and also across our stakeholders. So I hope that these quick run throughs a number of SP Energy Networks transport projects have been of interest to you. And in concluding, I would emphasise that we see an absolutely central role for electricity distribution networks in coordinating with local authorities and planning authorities and other stakeholders in enabling an effective and inclusive low carbon transition in decarbonisation of heat. All these projects that I've mentioned and a number of other projects are all available upon our SP Energy Networks website. There is a huge amount of online resource, and most of the information associated with these projects is in the public domain and open for all stakeholders to access. If you're interested in these, please do look at our website and reach out to myself or the organisation if you have any questions or any other aspects that you're particularly interested in. Thank you for your time this afternoon.